Welcome to the ExecMBA podcast. I'm your host, Brett Twitty, and you are listening to a new episode. On this episode of the podcast, I'm excited to share my recent conversation with two Executive MBA Class of 2019 graduates, David Black and Heather Townsend. David and Heather have recently launched a venture together called Even Health, and we invited them on the podcast to talk a bit more about that venture, as well as their Darden experience. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation, so without further ado, here's my interview with David Black and Heather Townsend. David, Heather, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Brett. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. This has been in the works for a little while. As it goes with these sort of entrepreneurial episodes, timing is everything. You said, let us know when you start to get a little bit more traction and you feel like you're ready to come on the podcast. Well, that time is now, so that's great. Glad to have you both here. Want to talk a little bit more about who you are and your MBA journey before we talk about your business venture. But before we get there, I would like to check in with both of you just to see how you're doing. David, how are things over in Annapolis?
Things are great in Annapolis. I've got two boys. We just celebrated my youngest third birthday. Colin, he was actually born in the program in October, so in the first two months of the program. But no complaints here. Just really excited to be working full-time on my new business and to get to talk to you.
And for our listeners, yes, people do add to their families. While in this program, babies are born, life changes occur. As much as you try to keep that static, it does still happen. So Heather, how about you? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. I'm in Arlington, Virginia. Been working on a few different startups with former Darden colleagues, actually, and things have been going well.
Nice. Well, thank you both for coming on the podcast. Heather, I want to start with you. Tell us a little bit more about your background and what you did before Darden.
Yeah, so my name is Heather Townsend, COO of Even Health. Prior to Darden, I was an IT operations manager for a government contractor based in the DC metro area. So worked there for about 6 years before kind of going on my own during my time at Darden, which inspired me to do that.
Nice. And David, what's your background?
Yep. So I'm currently CEO of Even Health, and prior to that, spent the past 16 years in healthcare. So working at the advisory board company for just over about 10 years, doing training nurses on workload measurement, evaluating big box technologies. And then I worked over at Johns Hopkins and got to know the world of insurance and managed care while I was getting my MBA at Darden.
And so, David, I was struck by something. We were on a Alumni Q&A webinar over the summer, and it's sort of a lead up to a question about how you decided to pursue an MBA and ultimately how you decided on Darden. I did not realize, though, that even up until like the start of LR1, you were still maybe a little bit on the fence. You weren't sure if you were going to do this, if it makes sense for you. And then you had shared in that webinar that it quickly became clear that this is what you should be doing. But I'm wondering how you ultimately decided on MBA and decided Darden was the right place for you.
Yeah. So Brett, I was one of those folks that getting out of college and undergrad, I expected I'd work for 12 to 24 months and then go get an MBA and follow a kind of a traditional path, at least at the time, what felt traditional. And new opportunities popped up professionally and personally. And the years kept going by and, I kept thinking, is now the right time? Is it worth the expense? All the questions and doubts that I think a lot of folks have. And I got to a point where I kind of just felt like I needed an X factor in my life, something that would put me in front of new people, new opportunities, new challenges. But it was an expensive, the hesitations that I had initially thinking about an MBA took me a few years to really work through. And you're right. I remember driving out to Charlottesville for the first on grounds. I was thinking, okay, this is an expensive commitment. Let's hope I don't feel like I've made a mistake. And as I shared with you and the others, the kind of immense relief, realizing I had not made a huge mistake, were immediate. And it was really within the first few hours of being on grounds, meeting folks that I now consider close friends, that, feels cliche or kind of like a rom-com type movie, but very genuine. I mean, it was just amazing how much of a immediate easement I felt from just meeting folks the first time.
And Heather, how about for you? How did you decide to pursue an MBA and what led you to Darden?
So I didn't really consider pursuing my MBA until I felt like I hit a ceiling with my former job and company. And I thought the solution to that ceiling was to pursue an MBA in hopes of expanding my career and advancement opportunities. So when I was looking for an MBA program, I wanted to be able to still work full time. I didn't want to take that time off from working. Another thing that particularly interested me was I wanted in-person classes to a point. I didn't want a completely online experience, and I wanted a school with a good academic reputation. So Darden checked all of those boxes, and it was, being in Arlington, it was close by. Even though I was in the Charlottesville cohort, the commute was really not too bad at all. So yeah, that's ended up how my path to Darden.
Yeah, and for those listening, we are now fully based in the DC area. So you go back a few classes, we had a Charlottesville section and a Roslyn section. Now everybody is in Roslyn together. So it's been kind of a journey on to that point as a program, and it's nice to have everybody in one location. Although we still spend time in Charlottesville with leadership residencies. So both of you have launched a business together. So Even Health is the name of the business. David, where does that name come from? What was the inspiration for the name?
Sure. So the inspiration for Even Health just came from my work at Hopkins and doing a lot of work with employers and their investments in wellness, and the fact that many employers were investing in destigmatization campaigns. And I began seeing just the correlation of data and healthcare expenditures to just the growing science, and the fact that there's still a lot more growth in brain health and mental health and emotional health out there. And I wanted to be kind of moving away from the sidelines of healthcare as I think of it, and kind of playing a more active role in shepherding some of the change that needed to happen in technology, but also my understanding of finances and how we actually pay for healthcare. So the concept Even Health is just simply that we're focused on helping people regain balance or find balance through life's difficult emotional challenges. And it's simply put that we're all at risk for emotional strife, and it's not a condition or an illness. In some cases, it's just stress or anxiety. And so our focus is leveraging technology and trying to scale limited healthcare resources to give people a solution that is essentially affordable and accessible mental health for folks.
Heather, you mentioned being involved with a few different startups. What attracted you to this particular opportunity?
So before I was in government contracting, my background is actually in psychology and neuroscience research, which stemmed from my passion for mental health. Something I feel strongly about. I personally believe that everyone should have like a therapist, a counselor, or an unbiased third party to talk to, especially in today's world. And so Even Health's mission of being focused on making counseling and mental health services available to everyone is really something I'm keen on. And I really enjoy that we're leveraging technology. And actually, when one of our global quarters in China, I was first introduced to virtual reality technology, and that kind of really piqued my interest. And I think that Even Health is leveraging that technology as well, or at least exploring and researching it, is really awesome.
So, David, as you were describing the focus of the company, I was thinking, gosh, we've got a pandemic. There's a lot of stress in the world right now. I can't think of better timing for the services that you're providing. Does this seem like an opportune moment for your company?
It's definitely an opportune moment, and while COVID has created a lot of difficulties and strains and negative memories for folks, it's given us the opportunity to get out there and devote our full-time careers to trying to create a solution for folks. So it's certainly something that has helped recognize, and I would say accelerate the recognition of what we've been building. The fact of just having virtual counseling and doing so in a way that is not just a standard, you're on one video screen, I'm on another, but we actually feel like we're in the shared space. So it's helped people recognize that virtual conferencing is not binary in the solutions today, and there's a difference between the types of tools we use. But it's also something that we've been thinking about and working on well before the pandemic. So some of it is just kind of getting your ducks in a row and being ready when you see an opportunity. And a lot of it is just, it's a leapfrog experience. The connections that we made 2 years ago and 18 months ago still play a large role and support in everything that we're doing now.
It's interesting to hear you describe some of the technology because I perhaps have been a bit limited in terms of how I was thinking about an online interaction. So, Heather, what does this look like from a technological standpoint? So, it sounds like maybe your company is forward thinking when it comes to creating this space and interaction for people around mental health. What does that look like?
So right now there's really like different options for mental health therapy that's virtual. You have Zoom, Teledoc, but they're all pretty much similar, just in maybe a different wrapper. But there's not much for confidential conversations or anonymous conversations that you would like to have. So we're really focused on what therapists and counselors, how they would moderate a group discussion, as well as what would make the participants of that feel most comfortable and kind of break down their barriers to join a group discussion and get mental health resources. So we're researching different options and what's the best, and one is to leverage a concept of shared space in a virtual reality environment.
It's interesting to think about VR, David. I think we were at a dinner in Philadelphia where you started telling me a bit about this. What does that look like from the participants' end? I know this. It sounds like it might be still in development, but what does it look like? What's the experience like?
Yeah, so spatial communication is just the notion that when we talk, there's what I'm listening to, there's how the nonverbal expressions, but there's also just the construct that we feel like we're together. And there's a lot of research on collaboration and cooperation done when folks feel like they're in the shared space. And that has even been validated virtually. If we feel like we're in the same virtual space, we're more collaborative, we coordinate better. And what we've done is just tap into that research. We've leveraged virtual reality so that the ability for folks to meet in a shared space. And we've designed it around elements that are in line with what a counselor or therapist would say is best practice for effective therapy rooms, counseling rooms. So we're really focused on being the digital choice when you have to moderate difficult conversations in a counseling or even a social support setting. And so for a user participant, we're focused on it being convenient for folks. Not everybody has a VR headset, and that's totally okay. We've actually built this so that it could be from a desktop or even from a mobile phone, from a VR headset, but you could even convert your smartphone into a VR headset. So we've created an immersive experience that is convenient first for folks and really leverages anonymity for individuals. Our big focus is that many individuals don't get help for support because they don't want to be a burden or bear any stress on their family members or the traditional support networks they have. And that's okay, but if you're not going to get help or have anyone to talk to, folks can feel limited. So we're trying to create a safe space for difficult conversations.
And Heather, from the COO role, what does it look like? I mean, you're helping build a startup. What does your work look like? What kinds of things are you working on?
So I work closely with David on a lot of calls with different potential research partners, different counselors that we're trying to recruit for the platform. We do pursuing a military option, so there's a lot of work around that. Product development, cybersecurity. There's really just wearing a lot of different hats, but we're growing our team, which is great. So that's also an exciting part. There's, the HR aspect as well. So big learning curve, learning a lot of new tools, but I really enjoy it.
So wearing a lot of different hats, it
Yeah.
sounds like typical startup stuff. And David, as y'all have talked about the business here, I'm wondering how hard is it to break into this world? I mean, how competitive is the landscape, and what kind of forces are you have any headwinds? Is it crowded? I'm curious.
Yeah. So with any business, there are lots of directions that you can go in, and what we've developed as we get feedback from individuals and we've We have early research partners. We were actually awarded a contract with the government through Small Business Innovation Research. And that's helped us really be able to get a good group to test ideas and validate different aspects that we're working on. But the reality is that, there's, with any business, you have a lot to learn, but it's not that difficult to find people that are willing to help you along the way and give you insights into how do you start a company? How do you hire developers? How do you vet developers? How do you recruit for someone that may be a counselor? What do you want to look for? We don't know all of the answers, but we are absolutely persistent and committed to solving a problem that is real. And as long as we're aligned around that and having a good partner like Heather, make sure that when one of us has crazy ideas or stuff that's unrealistic, we can ground the other, but we can also validate and explore. So I'd say, starting a business, there are, we don't know everything, but as long as we are persevering and learning, we always have made forward progress. And then two, having strong partners and people that you can lean on. It's kind of indicative of the business that we're starting around social support, but you need that when you're starting a business as well. And so having a good business partner, like Heather, is critical to this as you start trying to grow and move and explore something new.
Heather, before we started the podcast, you mentioned that you've been talking quite a bit with your Darden classmates recently. I'm wondering, are any of them helpful to you as you and David think about growing Even Health? Have you been in touch with them about some of the things you're trying to juggle right now?
Oh, definitely. David has set up a lot of meetings with various classmates in similar spaces. So we talk to them a lot. It's definitely been helpful. We have a WhatsApp groups as well for our ExecMBA class. So if we have just any sort of questions, you can kind of throw it on there and get feedback from whomever. So it's definitely a huge support network, and very grateful for that.
Yeah, Brett, I'd just add, Heather and I both took a course with Professor Sarvanathi on entrepreneurship, and that was where we both recognized that we were interested in this space and used that as an opportunity to kind of launch this particular business. So it was, some of the connections there, both through the network that we have, but also just the academic experience that helped us look at kind of people and product as two aspects to really focus on.
Heather, I'm curious what has drawn you to startups? You'd mentioned that you kind of in a few at this point, and what do you enjoy about them? I mean, there's a lot, right? You got to wear a lot of hats, and you got to get a business off the ground. But it's also exciting. I'm curious what has drawn you to this kind of work.
I definitely think there's excitement about it. The ability, there's so much that needs to be done, and so there's a lot of opportunities to solve problems with limited resources. So I guess I enjoy that. At times there's stress because you don't always have the answers. You don't always have the same resources as a large company does. It's not as necessarily as stable, but just there's so many learning opportunities, and I feel the more startups I work with or even talk to founders, it just helps expand my knowledge of startups. So it's been fun.
And David, you tracked your career, and you'd mentioned advisory board company, and then Johns Hopkins, and now you're doing your own thing, a sort of startup. What brought you to this point, saying this is the right time for me? I want to do a startup now.
It was tough because I have a mortgage and 2 children and loving wife and family, and and so the ability for me to pretend to be 23 and have the kind of different flexibility at that time, I wasn't in that state, so I needed to take a different approach for being able to launch a business, and I did that. And what I mean by it is just kind of an opportunity presented with this business to be able to get a research grant that has enabled me to go full time on this. And very fortunate and consider myself blessed and us blessed to have that opportunity. But that's been also just the way that this has had to work for me. As there was a concept of affordable loss, and when we took this entrepreneurship course that said, figure out what path or what kind of non-negotiables you need to have. Look at the resources you have available to you, and chart a course for how do you make this work. And so, as someone that felt like they may have missed the entrepreneurial boat because they had prioritized important aspects of my life, and I wouldn't do it any differently, that course kind of reset my expectation on how you can enter and become an entrepreneur, and that it's not a single channel, and that as long as you're passionate about something, that pops up. So when I came into Darden, I thought I'm going to go and be a climber or maybe a switcher, and not necessarily an entrepreneur. And I kind of stepped back and said, I'm really passionate about this, and it wakes me up in the morning. And how do I make that happen? So I'm on the other side of the fence, or base camp at Mount Everest, whatever you want to call it. I've crossed one milestone that's really exciting, and I'm the happiest in my life professionally, because I'm being able to do something that is not, it's work, but it's not a job, if I can put it that way.
Heather, when you reflect back on your Darden experience, and we talked about the relationships and being able to leverage your classmates as you think about some of the things you're working on, but the overall experience, how has it helped you in the work that you're doing with Even Health, or as you've focused on growing these startups that you've been involved with?
I think the academic content and the courses definitely helped me think more creatively and in different ways than if I was just trying to research on my own. So it really challenged me in that, like accounting and other things, finance that I may not have pursued, learning on my own. So it kind of forced me to learn these different avenues, which definitely is helpful from starting any sort of business. The network obviously has been essential. And also, I think giving me the confidence to approach these problems and having the tools that I feel like I can tackle them, that has been really important to me.
And David, for you, when you think back about your time at Darden, the overall experience, how has it affected the work, or impacted or informed the work that you're doing currently?
It in so many ways, Brett. It's just been, I talked about what I was hoping to get, which was just new experiences and new introduction to opportunities. And so I look back, and there's no linear aspect of how I got from there to here, because there was a conversation I had with one classmate who started a business. There was going to China and trying some VR technology there. There were professional opportunities and questions that popped up while I was in the program. And so it was just this experience and overlapping experiences that helped me personally feel more confident in being able to tackle a problem that I don't have an answer for or see a clear path to. From a community, to have people that I can lean on and call on, and it can feel lonely starting a business even when you have a team. So having that support network was critical there, and then also just having the continued momentum and resources even today. We had a recent networking call with folks that were graduated 30 years prior to us, and you could hear the passion and excitement as we shared what we were passionate about, and how that carried through. And while you're separated by so many experiences, you do share a common thread. So there's a lot that we've drawn from on the experience. I can't really point to one thing.
I appreciate your sharing all of that. I think all of that resonates with conversations that we've had here on the podcast. Certainly, Professor Saraswati her classes have come up time and again with students. Starting New Ventures is a class that's been talked about a bunch here on the podcast. One of the entrepreneurial electives that are offered in the program, and just again the experience of being in class, learning about different things, being around a group of people who are all thinking about doing different stuff. And we've talked a bunch about entrepreneurship here on the podcast, because I do think students at the end of all of this start to feel like, I can do that. To Heather's earlier point around having the confidence to take this step. So Heather, I'm wondering, Even Health, it's early days, but it sounds like y'all gaining some traction. You got some plans. What are you looking forward to as you continue to work on the business? What are you excited about?
I'm excited for the growth opportunities and really building out a team. That's something I haven't had that experience yet of building from ground up. I mean, we've already hired one developer full time, which is exciting. So as we grow, and that'll present new challenges, but really seeing what our dream and visions are now come to life, and just they could be greater than what we're even considering now. So I'm really excited for that.
David, I'm curious about what you're looking forward to. Obviously, it's been a lot has happened in a relatively short period of time for the company, but I'm sure that there are things that you're looking ahead to.
Yeah, it's, we are, I'm excited because we have a vision for goals that feel lofty at this point, but just from past experience, when we've set lofty goals, we've gotten a lot closer to them than you may have originally thought. So for us, it's having an impact on employers and helping kind of reinvent a solution that we really feel there's a supply and a demand problem in mental health. And the supply problem gets talked about a lot because of limited counselors and expensive course of treatments and access challenges. But we really feel like the demand issue is bigger than is currently being represented. And so we're really excited to create a way that scales limited resources, grows the impact and reach of experienced counselors and therapists, and engages people that would have been reluctant or reticent to seek help, because we just make it more fun and accessible. So, we're excited to leverage group counseling, and that's really our focus. So for me, it's just, running as quickly and as passionately as we can towards a problem that we care about.
Certainly given me a lot to think about here. It makes me wonder what I actually know about the world of counseling, and what it can be. Obviously, I had a very limited understanding of what it can be. I'm fascinated to see where you land. The idea of VR as well is really an interesting one. So, Heather, any advice you would share with our prospective students as they continue to learn more about Darden? Anything that you would advise them to think about?
Yeah, I would say invest in your classmates. When there's opportunities to attend networking events or get to know someone better, spend your time there. I know you can go home and spend time with your family and friends that you already know, but 2 years goes by fast. So really invest in knowing your classmates, because I think that has been one of the biggest payoffs for me. And try to enjoy it and not stress out as much, because you will get through it. I know sometimes, especially in the first quarter, you might not feel that way when you're balancing work and a heavy academic workload, but yeah, try to make the best of it. It goes by fast.
It's been a pretty consistent theme of, yes, you can always find time to read another case, or, but at the end of the day, it's the relationships that you'll probably leverage the most, and that you'll really come to value. And not to diminish any other part of the experience, but 21 months does go very quickly. David, any advice that you would share with our prospective student listeners?
Yeah, I echo what Heather said, but just add, that follow your curiosity. There's so much information that's thrown your way, and there's lots of different sessions and topics that you can learn about. And there's also problems that your peers are tackling. And I think the more you can get invested in helping your peers, you'll get exposed to new challenges that you may have a passion for, and that you wouldn't have thought about previously.
It's also a really good point. I'm amazed by how many people I talk to about their startup or startup idea, and it's always been something that they've kicked around with a few classmates. So there's always these conversations in the background. It's either a way of vetting or just even arriving the idea. So David, sort of last question here. This is if someone wants to learn a bit more about Even Health, get a feel for the company, what y'all are doing, how would they do that?
Appreciate the opportunity, Brett. The website is not a .com. We were talking about this earlier. It is www.even.health. That's it. we're there. We are actively working with employer groups to create social support groups for folks with difficult transitions in life and giving them peer and interpersonal support. So if there's anyone that's interested in getting involved with us at this point, we'd welcome a conversation. So they can reach out to us through that, or they can send a note at hello@even.health.
Well, David, Heather, thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been great talking with you about your Darden experience, and great to hear about all the exciting things that are happening with Even Health. Good luck. Stay safe out there, and we'll have to have you back on the podcast a little bit further down the road and hear how things are going.
We look forward to that, Brett. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And that was my interview with David Black and Heather Townsend, two graduates from our Executive MBA class of 2019. As always, if you have any comments, suggestions, requests, anything you'd like for us to cover here on the podcast, we're all ears. We can be reached at exec, that's EXECMBA at darden.virginia.edu. Until next time, stay safe, be well, and thanks for listening.